just going to be really quick on the Wilderson indicts and then the perm debate. Everyone good? Yeah?
First, on the Wilson sexualized gender slavery is the great level of black positionality and also female sexuality because of black and despite the fact that black female and bi male are absolutely equal, rendering the focal point of their criticism ultimately uses the Wilderson 03. Slavery is a great level of black positionality and work exposed on black female sexuality, corroborates these findings, flows, including regarding the black female subject in discourse, sexuality, represented with arts regarding the black and non-gender subject, and in addition to the ontological elements with black women and men share a scandal in the face of the new world of Germany. I am not addressing black people under historical apprenticeship as an inferior being, but rather the paradox of not being under this particular historical order. Black female and male are absolutely equal to black body, capital body market, branded from one generation to the next.
Stop saying.
And on Wilson agrees with their method. Wilson says otherwise they miscut their evidence. There's no reason to reject if we prove a link to the critique.
The article earlier he said that he contradicted himself in the part that they cut.
Earlier on in the article, he makes a specific claim about how he contradicted himself with the section of the article that they cut.
Because blackness is incoherent.
Yeah, because blackness is a position of incoherence, so it doesn't make sense to endorse political institutional change for that purpose. Then, on the perm debate. First, on the counter-perm stuff. First, counter-perm. You vote negative as an act of radical activity and then do the opposite necessary because you need to take the time to refuse to continue operation against bodies in the way the scholarship gets weight on academic environments like debate, extend, Wilderson, where this is opposed to the negative dialogue that they assume the violence can only be perpetuated through actors like the United States, which sends us way anti-blackness and reproduce through academic work is not enough to protect against anti-blackness in particular issues. The argument is that anti-blackness necessitates the review, so in every instance, we need to challenge the meta-narrative of anti-blackness because this is what provides the theoretical underpinnings that allows it to perpetuate itself through refusal. We bring to a halt until slow down the machinery that allows the facilitation of violence against oppressed people. Arguments that they have fallen into the trap of modernity when they give in to the rhetoric of God, progress, and salvation. And two arguments for why they're preempted the counterpoint doesn't work. First, it's not flinching, it's a sequencing argument. So they're preempted the sequencing argument also is completely nonsensical. We're still making a claim that the alternative is the number one issue. We have to deal with anti-blackness before anything else. That necessarily means we're taking an unflinching paradigmatic analysis to it. We're just saying at the end, if for some reason there's space to do the app, we can finish whatever solvency is mitigated through doing whatever's left of the affirmative. And two, the all-shifting argument makes no sense because we don't have to deviate from our argument from our advocacy. We say the alternative is more important, but it must happen first. Also, they don't ever actually give a reason as to why any implication of that would be a necessarily bad thing. So like, don't pull the trigger on theory. They're not doing enough work for you. And then on the perm one, this is a competing method to make you don't even access to a permutation. That's a Wilson announcement from 2 entities that the term we just got done reading. And two, the permutation of the Southern and White hegemony, the coalition between the affirmative and negative by the permutation is nothing more than creating a concentration of power in the form of hegemony. Wilderson 02. In the light of this coalition, social movements, even radical social movements like the prison abolition movement, about the solicitation of hegemony so as to fortify and extend the life of civil society and show whereas such coalition social movements cannot be called the outright enemy of the white supremacy, the rhetorical structure, political desire, written by supplemental to blackness, society, discourse, comments of coalition, vacillated by extending the narrative supposed to exposition, the similitude between that side of the well-known police accounts and their experiences in civil societies. Most nurturing of the radical coalition raises disturbing questions about political desire, black positionality, and hegemony as a modality of structure. And four, and three, the per replicates the fungibility of the slave because they can just pick and choose which black bodies and scholarship they like, and they can use for their endorsement and advancement. They literally concede this in cross-examination. That's literally the definition of social death. The per proves the exclusivity of the all-unflinching paradigmatic analysis that's grounded in incoherency to try to smooth over difference. That's an example of perfecting the slave. That is the trap of civil society. And four, turn the perm is nothing more than white purposes. Multiculturalism is an attempt to take the alien body present and integrate into the localities. Whiteness is inclusion of the other, simply another way in which white hegemony makes minorities take on the white identity, even if it's so-called enemy population of multiculturalist white supremacists, groups of the project, white supremacist globality. Rodriguez 09. White supremacist territoriality, structure of feeling that organized the cohesion of racial, spiritual entitlement, subjects that we identify with the sentimental structure, they enter a relation of discomforting intimacy with the embodied threats to their sense of the local. They become specified and particularized outside for white localities, community performance of white bodies and subject and exert the capacity to manifest authority and presence in places they will do and do not physically occupy, hence by ongoing proliferation of race and state section, violence, logical, multicultural, white supremacist inclusion, social technology, white supremacy are not reducible to discrete, the arrangement of institutionalized and state legitimized violence or strategies of social inclusion. And five, all their anti scholarship for reasons they don't get the permutation, they don't get the impact turn and permutation at the same time. That's why white fluidity also creates psychological violence because it tells black people to push and pull themselves constantly to cohere social expectations. They clearly do this by reading the way Wilderson and but also saying that Wilderson justifies part of their position. Another reason why the CX is really damning for them. And six, we said the dance with social death with death already. Wilderson said it's up to y'all to learn this stuff. It's not something you can manufacture through something like a permutation. And seven, the permutation is merely an instance of absorption and co-optation. Martineau in section 03. The process of reinventing whiteness and white supremacy has always involved the state, and the state has always been involved in the utmost paranoia about political cataclysms such as the civil rights movement, confronted the state as harbingers, and yet the state's absorption and co-optation of that position, opposition to the reconstruction of the white social order has been recurring before our very eyes. White supremacy is not reconstructed for simply don't take part for the sake of maintenance of order, court, schools, prisons, police, army, law, religion, the two-party system become the arenas of business, brutality, success, and speculate simply not simply by understanding forms of state violence and destruction, hyper injustice, and acts of hegemony will be addressed. And 8. You can treat all the links to the one and as this adds to the permutation. Having you 1% of risk of a link is a reason to reject the permutation altogether because that means there's still a risk that the permutation will be anti-black. And 9. You already asked your question in the one you see about making progressive reform and whiteness more accessible is not possible with the question we asked about the ethicality of society because your question requires the alienation of the black body. Our question refuses to affirm your advocacy if they advocate for anything that's either separate or just that moves the entirety of the 1AC and excuse our strategy. That's the voter for education. And lastly. All of these arguments are reasons, all of the above arguments are reasons that the attempt at the perm also turns case. First, the slave doesn't get access to criticize gender constructions or colonialism because it's something that gets mapped onto the body to begin with. B, and no matter what, the black body is always seen as evil. This means that we can't solve the problems without first engaging in our alternative. And C, this also puts them in a double bind because you either vote negative on presumption because we're the only ones engaging anti-blackness, or you vote negative because they propagate anti-blackness. Nowhere in any of the speeches that they presented up to this point have they ever claimed to solve anti-black violence. That is a huge reason as to why you're going to be voting negative on presumption.
8:54.